Hey everyone, it's Coach Michelle J. Raymond, your trusted guide for building your brand and your business on LinkedIn. And listeners, I'm calling this season of the podcast Michelle and Friends because it gets to this time of the year and I haven't spoken to a lot of them in a while. And this current guest that I've got on this week, the last time we spoke was a quick Zoom catch up. Before that, we met at Social Media Marketing World earlier in the year, one of my favorite catch ups. Michaela Alexis, welcome to the show.
I'm so excited. I have a feeling it's going to be 50% just giggling.
I think it started that way, and I'm not
Yeah,
sure it's going to change the
I
whole
don't think
way
it's going
through
to change.
listeners. We have some serious stuff to talk about, but that doesn't mean
Yeah.
we have to be serious because here's the thing, Michaela, like you and I have been doing LinkedIn for a long time. We're going to talk about your journey in a moment,
hmm
but you see things happen, but I feel like right now it's like a tectonic shift. It's a big shift in the way the game's being
hmm
played. And I think there's a misconception out there from people that if you've got a lot of followers, that it just becomes magically easier. And so we're going to talk through some of that, talk through what you're seeing on the platform, how you use your personal brand to stand out.
Sure.
But for people who somehow have been living under a rock and have not come across you on the platform, tell me the journey from no followers to
Yeah.
175, 77,000. I lost count.
Yeah.
Talk us through that. How did that actually happen for you?
Yeah. I feel like, a little bit is like right place, right time. I say that as I just posted minutes ago about how when I was laid off in 2016. So I like the serendipitous connection between that post and doing this now. But it really was in 2016, and I was laid off from the tech startup that I was working at. And I kind of got hit over the head with this realization that, that whole idea that you work hard and you get rewarded doesn't really work in the business world. And there's so many things that are out of your control, and not to get too far into it, but you see it all the time, right? Especially right now, you're talking about all the shifts and the layoffs that are happening right now. And I think people are all coming to that realization that there's only so much that's in our control. And I don't like that. As a control freak, I didn't like that at all. So I was like, well, let me redirect myself and figure out what is in my control. Like, what can I do? Because every time something like this happens, I'm having to start from scratch. I'm having to like prove myself all over again. And what if there was a way that I could kind of stand out and build a community without it being tied directly to where I work, right? Because so many of us are like director at this company and we pour everything into that place. And so I wanted to shift and create this kind of like foundation. And so I always call my LinkedIn my career insurance. So those are really the people that know, like, and trust me, regardless of whether I'm a LinkedIn instructor or I'm an acrobat, right? They just are following me because I'm Michaela. And that's a blessing, but it doesn't mean that it was easy. A lot of it came from just being really transparent about how hard it was as a job seeker, talking about the challenges that other people weren't, while everyone else was posting, like, oh, I got this promotion and I did this. And everything just kind of felt very kind of isolating, right? I would go online and I'd be like, I can't relate to any of these people because everybody seems like they have it all together, and I'm here at rock bottom trying to figure out how to dig my way out. And so that 170 whatever thousand people just really came from this realization that I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to play a game where I constantly had to compete against other people's awards and who's the most perfect employee and who's at the top of the food chain. And I just wanted to kind of be myself. And I wanted to see also if there was anybody else that was dealing with the same challenges as me. So I started sharing a lot of that on LinkedIn. And trust me, like I was just as shocked that people actually cared about how my interviews went. But that got me kind of hooked on LinkedIn because I felt like it was like the great equalizer for those of us that weren't born into wealth, don't have like a celebrity name, we're not nepo babies, and we want a chance to be heard and to be seen. And so I kind of geared towards like building my own business and helping people kind of create their own voice on LinkedIn, just because I think that everybody deserves a chance and a chance to create career insurance too.
Absolutely. And this is something that I think is really important for marketers right now. I mean, the world's upside down, back to front. The layoffs are crazy. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. And I think the time to build that insurance is not when you need it. So like
No.
you, I never realized that I was going to have to quit a job on the spot. I was loving my job, had the best job, great pay, loved it. And then I had to quit on the spot for some things that happened out of my control. And I just wanted to protect my reputation that I'd built so hard and for so long, and just couldn't be associated with that business anymore. And it's not at that point that you need to try and take out insurance. You don't take out insurance after you have the car accident. Like, it has to be placed beforehand, or the break and enter.
I love that.
Insurance is in place up front. And so for me, I was really grateful that I'd been building my online personal brand. Not that I knew it was called that at that time. That was like a whole new language that I learned on LinkedIn, but the relationships and the network is really what eventually became my business, which is kind of crazy, but something that I also love as part of this journey that I'm still figuring out as a business owner. It's different when you work for somebody else. But like you, I realized that I'm not the world's greatest employee. Like, I deliver results and I'm really good at what I do when I was working in sales. But I don't really like working with other people, is what I discovered. I thought I was a team player. I'm really not. As a people person, it was kind of funny for me to figure that out as I've, come along this journey. Let's think about this. Like, 175,000 plus people are following you. And I heard something on another podcast that I was listening to yesterday that said how much of a privilege it is that we get to create content and have an impact on other people's lives. Now, that to me, I was like, yes, and they're strangers, no less, for the most part. So I really find that as something that is a blessing in what we do. But there might be some people out there that are thinking, oh, that's great for you, Michaela. Like, you're probably an extrovert. You love attention. You want to be part of a crowd. Can we dispel this myth? Because you're not really any of those things. I've met you face to face. Crowds aren't really your happy place. You are not the loud extrovert. You are hiding in the corner just going, whoa, this is a lot. Can we talk about what that's like for, I'm going to call you an introvert. If that's not what you would call yourself, please correct me. But just having experience, like being in the same room as you, it's not something that is easy for you, but yet you show up so consistently for other people. And I think that is impressive.
Oh, thank you. I love the compliments. I love it. I don't have anybody complimenting me during the day. It's just me and my dog. So I appreciate that. I think at the end of the day, there's a biological core need inside all of us for connection. A lot of us say that we hate small talk, and that's perfectly fine. I think that the people that hate small talk are actually socially anxious, and that's the reason that they hate small talk. A lot of us really like those deep conversations. Like, haven't all of us had at least one of those conversations where you walk away and you're like, oh, like that feels good, or it recharges you, or it feels like relief, like it feels really good. And so the same thing goes for me. Actually, when I started on LinkedIn, a big part of the reason that I wanted to was because I struggled in my 20s with agoraphobia. So I couldn't leave my house, really struggled with crowds, like full-blown phobia where I would have panic attacks. But I still had that innate desire to have conversations with people and meet people. And I wanted friends. Like, we all want friends. It's just that some of us just need to find a different way to get there. And so LinkedIn was a really great space for me to almost practice my social skills. One of my biggest things is really struggling meeting people cold and knowing what to say. I can have a deep conversation with some people. Some people listening might be like, I had a 3-hour conversation with you, Michaela. And that's absolutely true. That's part of social anxiety, but I just don't know how to start conversations. And so LinkedIn has been a really great testing ground for me to, number one, break the ice before I go to events. So I love to reach out to people before, so I'm not walking in cold, but also just practice and get better, because I really believe that social skills are a muscle, and LinkedIn is not going to replace in-person social interactions. But I believe, just think of the pandemic, right? how weird were we when we all got together after being isolated for so long? I'm like, do I shake your hand or do I fist bump you? Like, what do I do? And that to me was such an aha moment. That's why I started writing the book of we need to keep practicing this thing. So I'm absolutely an introvert. I don't think it affects how I come across in person. I think that for me, it's been just learning how I want to be approached. So if you're not good in crowds, I mean, don't sign up for the networking event and stand around awkwardly at a table. We had a catch up after the event. I met you in the speaker's room. That's where I feel comfortable. It's a small enough space. There's people there, but not an overwhelming number of people for me. And then I book a call with you afterwards so that we can have a more in-depth conversation. So that's what works for me. And I think it's just been a process of discovery of like how to meet people. But I think for each and every one of us, we need connection.
I couldn't argue that more because as an extrovert, so at the other end of the scale, give me as many people in a room that I can talk to. I'm the person that you don't want to sit next to on the plane because I'm going to talk to you, or at the bus stop or in the grocery checkout line.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter where you are, I'm going to want to talk to you. So I am either your best friend. I make a really great wingman for introverts at events because I'm always
Noted.
Hi, this is, so I'm good for that. And I have had people literally attach themselves and follow me around, which is great. But if I look back and have a think about, okay, so I quit a job, I wake up the next morning and go, what the heck just happened? Like, it was a crazy 24 hours. And Lil came to me and said, look, Michelle, you should set up a business for us and you are going to work as hard for us as you do for everyone else. It'll be fine. And I was like, I had never even thought about creating a business. So it was going to go one way, it went another way, and we know how this story ends. But when we were sitting down writing the list of pros and cons, the only con pretty much was Michelle will get lonely. How would I deal with?
Yeah.
It's true, right?
Yeah.
So how would I deal with being at home alone because we're in COVID and it was lockdown and all the other fun stuff in 2020? What was I going to do to make sure that I would be okay in a spare bedroom doing all my work with no people around me?
Right.
And that was really hard for me to adjust to because I had always worked in teams. And as much as I say I'm not a great employee, I loved having teams around me. I
The
just didn't
social
want to
part,
work with
yeah.
them. Like, I just didn't want to be part of the team where I was held back or I had to ask somebody else, could I do stuff? And I'm so grateful for the people that I met during that time on LinkedIn because I felt like I had to cut myself off from that previous industry in many ways and create a whole new persona online. And there's some people that helped me so much along the way. The list would be too long to name them. And of course, Lil has kept me going the whole way through. Like when I'm in the corner just going, okay, is this even working? And people often get this perception that because we post a lot of content, that it's just easy and comes natural and we were born this way, as opposed to we show up consistently because I want to fulfill that need within me that is about helping other people and helping them solve the problems to help them grow their business. And that's what drives me. But let's talk to the overthinkers and perfectionists out there. These are your favorite audience. And I often think that what we do is a mirror on ourselves, like realistically. If we look at a lot of the actions that we take, it's like, who out there needs what I've got? But they're often sitting on the sideline. And the thing that you and I have in common is that we are absolutely committed to making sure that we get as much and as many of those amazing voices that are paralyzed and stuck on the sidelines watching everybody else play the game of LinkedIn, getting them through that moment to actually get them visible. So if you had a couple of minutes to give a pep talk to those overthinkers and perfectionists out there, what would you say so that we can encourage maybe a couple more listeners to get off that sideline and into the game?
Step away from your computer, hit post and step away from your computer is the first thing that I would say. Because when I started on LinkedIn, I knew that I was going outside my comfort zone really and truly. I would have to have my husband hide my phone. because I wanted to, especially for that first half hour, to delete the post. And I think it's so important. I heard this quote once, and it was talking about perfectionists and how a true perfectionist isn't somebody that doesn't take action. It's somebody that takes action and then perfects as they go, like from there. And I always try to say that to my clients, the ones that are kind of sitting on the sidelines. The other thing to remember is that when it comes to posting, part of it is for myself. Obviously, I have to make money, and that's what drives a lot of what I do on LinkedIn. But there's also this part of me that is like, is anybody, like, still to this day, it's like, is anybody else dealing with this thing? Especially, as you know, like working with by yourself, you don't have a coworker that to be like, hey, Betty, like, have you ever dealt with this? So LinkedIn, in many ways, it has become my workplace where I'm like, hey, is anybody else dealing with this? So the biggest thing is that there is freedom in vulnerability, because when I first started posting, I was terrified. And I was terrified of things that really didn't matter. I never told anybody I had agoraphobia because, God forbid, you have some sort of challenge that you have to overcome. And, you know, mental health it wasn't kind of at the forefront as it is now. And I still remember being invited to speak at this like all women's event. And they wanted me specifically to talk about my battle with agoraphobia. And I was like, okay, until the day of. And then I was like, oh my God, why did I say yes to this? Like, everybody, these are all like, you know, these beautiful, polished business women. They're all going to judge me. And Michelle, I kid you not, I get on stage and I start my presentation. And it was like during like a dinner, and nobody even like raised their fork. Like, they were just like nodding along, listening. And I'm like, I have spent so many years thinking that this is like this dark shadow that, like, oh my gosh, if anybody knew this about me, they would judge me. And nobody, if anything, people came up to me afterwards to be like, yeah, I've dealt with that too. And so there is so much freedom in learning that so many of our experiences are universal, that it gives you this kind of confidence. And I don't know if like you've had this experience, but it gives you a confidence that you can't get otherwise. If you're not open about these things that you think are, you know, these major flaws within yourself, and that's not to say, you know, you need to go on LinkedIn and talk about all your flaws, but being vulnerable about things like being laid off, right? About being a job seeker, about being passed over for a promotion and what you learned from that and what you're going to do differently. These are all things that are going to allow you to connect with other people and also raise your confidence at the same time. So I see it all the time with my clients where they start off meek and mild and they're perfectionists, and they end up like being better at content than I am, because they just realize as they go through the process that they are building a community of people that are just like them. And the truth of the matter is, we do business with people that we know, like, and trust. There are a million LinkedIn trainers, but there are trainers that I send people to all the time, like you, right? Because I know, like, and trust you. And so that has to be the priority, especially as we enter this age of AI where we don't know if we're talking to a human or a robot. It's not going to be the person that has the most experience. It's going to be the one that builds relationships the best.
It is absolutely about rapport building, and there is a level of vulnerability that comes with that. And I think that line is in a different place for everybody at different times, and it's a sliding scale. And we're not here to say, like you said, go and share your deepest, darkest secret.
Yeah, don't do that. And don't blame me for it.
Yeah, that is not what we're saying here. And to the crowd that says this isn't Facebook, like you don't need to go there. Like, that is not what we're saying. But it's that wall that we put between us and our audience, and that stops them from actually connecting with us. And I did this when I started creating content as a business owner. I went through this. How do I show up as a business owner on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Because as an employee doing my own thing for 6 years with no rules, whatever I wanted, my boss didn't pay attention. I just posted whatever I want. There was so much freedom. I was just me, right? There was no other filters to it. I was like, this will help someone. That's what I'm going to post. Became a business owner. and looked around at all the other LinkedIn trainers and went, oh, that's how I've got to be when I'm a LinkedIn trainer posting content on LinkedIn. I literally sounded like the LinkedIn help section, and I felt suffocated.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? If this is what being a business owner and posting content on LinkedIn, I think I've made a really big mistake. I'm not sure that this business thing's going to turn out, because the part of me that I leave out and was leaving out back then was that I actually care about people, that I genuinely do this because I absolutely care that other people grow their businesses for, all the reasons that I shared on episode 200. If you missed it, I go into that in a lot of detail about what is driving me. But ultimately, it was one of those things that if I didn't just be me, then I was going to explode. And then the other thing that I think I have a level of responsibility now that I've reached like a certain number of followers.
Yeah.
When I share that something's not working for me, it almost creates this space around me where other people can breathe and
Big
relax
time.
and go,
Yeah.
oh my God, if Michaela and Alexis are dealing with this, it's
Yeah.
okay that I do as well. And
Yeah.
those are the reasons that I've noticed that it's almost a level of responsibility for it to not just be perfect all the time. So if you're out there thinking you haven't got everything sorted and you can't post until everything's perfect, like, please don't do it to yourself. Like, it is suffocating is the way that I would describe it.
Well, in my book, I interviewed a psychologist that talked about this 15% theory. Did we talk about this before?
No.
So there's this 15% theory in conversation, and it's just exactly what you're saying, whether you're on LinkedIn or you're in real life. And it's this idea that in order to have deep conversations with people or deepen a connection with somebody, you have to be willing to go 15% outside of your comfort zone. And when you do that, you can actually, like, just like you're saying, you can actually see someone just kind of relax. So that I love the 15% rule, because for those of you that are like, I'm not going to go on LinkedIn and talk about my divorce, Michaela, like, that gives you like a pretty good framework. So whatever is 15% out of your comfort zone, I got on here and I was like talking about how my dog ripped off his toenail and stuff like that. So that's 15%. If I'm talking to a client, I might be a little bit more, polished and put together. So that's 15% out of my comfort zone. And that gives you permission then to talk about your pets, right? And then that gives me permission to go a little bit deeper. And that's how we get into deep conversation. That's something that we do naturally. It's something that is not really quite as innate when we're on LinkedIn, but it's something that we need to try to replicate in order to have those deepening connections.
I think it's all about trying something new as well. And sometimes I think, especially for the women that I work with, quite often that 15% is challenging you to share about the work in a way that you're proud about it.
Absolutely.
This doesn't have to be deep,
just
dark
emotional.
secrets. This can be actually owning that you're good at what you do. And I work with some seriously amazing women that if you have a look on LinkedIn, the disconnect infuriates me. This is why I'm so passionate about this particular thing.
I know what you're talking about.
It is why I rewrite LinkedIn profiles so that they stop underselling people, because it drives me crazy that these amazing people put themselves down into tiny, tiny little boxes. And I get that it's scary. I'm not trying to step over that fact that there is a lot of fear around this, but maybe those baby steps are what really makes a difference. Now, we've gotten this far and I haven't really asked you in the conversation, speaking of this LinkedIn thing that we've been banging on about for the last 25 minutes, what's working for you right now? What have you found in this crazy game of LinkedIn is working for Michaela Alexis?
It's a lot, right? There's a lot going on. And I want to acknowledge that first, that the LinkedIn algorithm, even for somebody like me, actually, for bigger creators, it's actually worse right now, because the LinkedIn algorithm seems to be favoring smaller, newer creators, encourages them to create more content. And bigger creators are not reaching even a small portion of their followers. So I've told my clients, I'm like, hey, I get some posts that reach 100 likes right now. I have other ones that reach 2,000. Couldn't tell you what the difference is. It's the same copywriting. So that's number one. I have noticed, have you been part of this beta test for promotional posts for personal profiles? You seen
So
that?
it just went live on my account just last week, and I am rocking in the corner because I'm already seeing. So, for those of you
Yeah.
who don't know what's happened, the ability to pay money to boost your own personal posts and reach bigger audiences is here. So,
Yeah.
pay to play, which I've been talking about on the podcast for pretty much most of this year, that monumental shift on LinkedIn
Yeah.
about pay to play is happening, and that being able to pay for personal posts, all
You
I'm
know.
seeing is rubbish content that's not targeted at me, that
Yeah.
people are just burning through their money. Because I mean, Michaela, it makes it sound so easy. Spend $50, get 100,000 impressions. Like, why wouldn't you do that? Because
Yeah.
it's easy. Pay money, get results. Like, who would have
Yeah.
thought?
Yeah, I have I'm I'm one of those people that kind of left the corporate world because I feel like I have such a big heart when it comes to helping people. And one of my issues with all of this is that, you see this huge dip in engagement and visibility, and then all of a sudden you have this beta tested promotional post that now you can pay to get more engagement. And I think that when we look at LinkedIn Roots, and the thing that really attracted me to it was that it was this great equalizer that no matter what your last name is or where you come from or where you are in the world, that you have the ability to be seen and heard. And so that's my only issue with it. But beyond that, let's not even talk about the algorithm. Yeah. But what's working for me right now, I kind of am looking at LinkedIn as like a pyramid. And at the very top of that pyramid, LinkedIn profile optimization is number one. I think it would probably be the same for you too. There are so many opportunities to turn your LinkedIn profile into like a landing page where people can get to know you. You can pre-qualify people before you speak to them. You can lead them to links on your website, to your booking links. There's so much to do with profiles right now. So that gets me really excited. I'm also seeing a lot of new features for premium, which again goes back to the pay to play, but that is something that people might want to explore before paying for posts and all of that stuff, because I think there's some really great features there. And then the next step on that pyramid, I would really put networking on top of content creation, because there's so much going on in inboxes right now. There's so much that you can do in terms of reaching out to people and having virtual coffees, especially as things slow down at the end of the year. This is a perfect time to really say, okay, what do I want to do in the next 60 days to reach out to people that have time finally to have a little chat, just like you're doing right now with the podcast, right? Every year at this time of year, I create my list of people that have helped me over the past year. I put that together. And then I sit down in front of my Christmas tree, which, by the way, is up. I hope that, that might be polarizing. That's the only polarizing thing I would probably say this whole time. I'm one of those people.
I'm a huge Christmas fan, and I'm getting a new Christmas tree this year. So, no, I am on team.
But you can do it early, right? It's a business move. It's a business move. So I sit in front of my Christmas tree. I might put on a Santa hat, and I just sit there and I record these 30 to a minute videos for each person that has helped me that year, whether it's clients, people that have referred business, that sort of thing. So that's a great time of year to start doing those things that you've always wanted to do, but you just don't have time to. And then I'm sure that you've already noticed commenting on people's posts. I mean, I've had some comments that have reached more people than my posts do. And it's so you can see all the analytics for that. And I tell my clients that are super busy, I'm 15 minutes a day, you're going to go on a commenting spree. Don't worry so much about the creating content all the time. Let's focus on the things that you can do. So commenting is a big one. I love newsletters. My love for newsletters is not going to die anytime soon. I have one for my personal and my company page, and I'm a one-woman show, because I think that there's something really nice about having one that is just about my personal thoughts, my career blog, and then one that is just about LinkedIn training. If you wanted to kind of keep it all together, you can do up to 5 on your person. Is it still 5, or can you do more than that?
5 on both. Yeah.
On both.
So, and 5 on your page.
So you can experiment with it. And it's one of those things that, you don't have to feel so bad when it's you get one like and maybe 50 people saw your post. It's one of those things that you can play around with your writing and get better at it. And there's so many ways to kind of add subscribe buttons and that sort of thing. And you don't have to worry about the algorithm. That's my favorite part of it. So newsletters for me have been incredible. I've gotten clients directly from my newsletters just because they're like, I really like that newsletter that you posted. I want to post something like that. So those are like my three, I think I mentioned three things that I'm like really all about right now.
You are preaching to the choir when it comes to newsletters. And if anyone is thinking about starting a LinkedIn newsletter, trying to figure out whether it should be an email newsletter, a LinkedIn newsletter, a Substack, a Beehive, or whatever, I've got a whole episode dedicated to this because I am so on team newsletter that I thought I should look into each of those different sections. So you and I would have that 3-hour conversation, but I want to wrap this up and I am going to give you a moment to do a quick shout out for your upcoming book, which is amazing. Tell us about what it is, what can we expect, and when is it going to be released? Because I saw the pre-releases sorted. So what's going on?
So it actually came out this year. I'm trying to remember the exact date. February for No Fear Networking. It's a guide to building connections for the socially anxious professional. And this, I tried to make it unlike any other business book that I have ever read. Because I've read a lot of them and I was like, okay, I don't want to hear about meditation. I don't want to hear about deep breathing. I want to know the things that are science-backed, that work. So I went through so many scientific studies. I talked to so many psychologists. I did so many interviews. So everything that's contained in the books are either things that have been tried and tested by myself or have been sourced from other people or are science-backed or all of the above. So it's really more of like a handbook or like a guide, I would say, for somebody that knows that they need to network, which is, by the way, all of us, but doesn't really know how to start and is, has been kind of trying to shove themselves in a box where they just go to the cocktail parties and stand awkwardly around and are kind of beating themselves up because it doesn't work for them. Because there are so many ways to network. And I promise it's just one of those things that you can actually make networking fun. I really do believe that.
You absolutely can. And, this is something that we'll, of course, put all the details in the show notes on how people can buy your book. It's exciting. And thank you for making time to have this conversation with me because it was everything that I hoped. And the main reason was I know that we would reach a different audience that is hesitant about putting themselves out there, about having these networking conversations, about letting people see who they are and what they do and own that brilliance. So I appreciate everything that you've shared today. I'm not going to probably speak to you before the end of the year, but have an amazing Christmas because I am a Christmas little elf myself.
There'll be people listening that are like, you guys are nuts. It's the beginning of November.
I'm a big kid that would leave lights up all year. So if there's any other big kids out there who love Christmas or however you choose to celebrate that time of year, send us a message, drop us a DM on LinkedIn. And
I want to know, is your Christmas tree up? Do you have decorations up? Or are you like the December 1st? Absolutely not.
Look, I am breaking all those rules. So until next week's listeners, cheers.